By the Alpha Wealth Group, bringing the trilogy of estate, tax, and investment planning together. Visit alphawealthgroup.com for a free report.
When you've got questions, he always has an answer. It's Sean Hannity, this afternoon at 2, right before Joe Walsh at 5 on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. Yesterday, President Trump addressing the assembled D.C. press corps prior to taking off for Kentucky to sign legislation waiving the student debt of disabled veterans.
That didn't even make any news.
Well, of course not. Of course not, because his rhetoric is always the lead. President Trump doubled down on disloyalty and had a heavenly response to recession jitters. Trump talking about disloyalty. Jewish Americans who vote for Democrats are disloyal, he said the other day. Disloyal to whom? To what? He answered that question yesterday.
In my opinion, the Democrats have gone very far away from Israel. I cannot understand how they can do that. They don't want to fund Israel. They want to take away foreign aid to Israel. They want to do a lot of bad things for Israel. In my opinion, you vote for a Democrat, you're being very disloyal to Jewish people, and you're being very disloyal to Israel. And only weak people would say anything other than that.
So that's one topic area. And the other, of course, is China trade policy, the D.C. press corps pressing the issue of a possible recession, and President Trump arguing, look, this is an issue confronting China and their unfair trade practices, their intellectual property theft. This is long overdue. I'm the one to confront it. Should have been confronted before me. It wasn't. So the people sent me here to do this.
Somebody had to do it. I am the chosen one. Somebody had to do it. So I'm taking on China. I'm taking on China on trade. And you know what? We're winning because we're the piggy bank. We're the one that all these countries, including the European Union, wants to rob and takes advantage of. European Union, $200 billion. China, more than $500 billion. Sorry, I was put here by people. I was put here by people to do a great job, and that's what I'm doing. And nobody's done a job like I've done.
And he later went on to tweet, essentially retweet someone who considers him the king of Israel.
I have been responsible for a lot of great things for Israel. One of them was moving the embassy to Jerusalem, making Jerusalem the capital of Israel.
For more on that topic, I think the chosen one thing will dissipate rather quickly, particularly if you contemplate it in context. The people sent me here to do a job. That's what he meant. Chosen one, tongue in cheek. You could tell by his gesticulation when he said it. But okay, whatever. Of course, he's not going to get that consideration. The issue of the running feud with the Socialist Spice Girls and the issue of his invocation of Judaism and who is loyal and who isn't loyal to it based on their electoral choices is another matter that we'll discuss with Jonathan Tobin. He's the editor-in-chief of Jewish News Syndicate, contributor to National Review, columnist for the New York Post, the Federalist, and the Jewish Week. Jonathan, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Good morning. It's great to be with you.
And so how did you receive Trump's distillation of his disloyalty comment?
Well, like a lot of things the president says, I think wise people have learned to take him seriously, but not literally. Anytime you speak of disloyalty or make allusions to American Jews or any ethnic religious group being loyal to someplace else, obviously that's problematic. And for Jews, there's a history of being considered disloyal to their countries. So he shouldn't have said that. Mm-hmm. That said, again, we have to place it in context. When Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar, and I loved you're calling them the Socialist Spice Girls.
You can use it. Yeah, you can use it.
Sure. Credit Dan Prof, but yes.
When they speak of dual loyalty, they are trying to separate Jews and other Americans, Jewish and non-Jewish, from Israel because they seek Israel's destruction. Trump is a friend of Israel. He's frankly a friend of the Jewish people in terms of his policies.
He's
And
the king of
he
Israel,
has,
according to him.
According to Wayne Allen
yeah,
Rhodes. Give me a break.
in Israeli politics, sometimes people like in the past, like Menachem Begin, and even sometimes Benjamin Netanyahu, his followers sort of give him that king of Israel thing. It's again, that's another tongue-in-cheek thing. I don't think that really matters. What does matter is to understand that Trump is. I don't think it's even arguably. I think it's factually true to assert that he is the most pro-Israel president of the United States that we've ever had. And he would like it that this would cause more American Jews to support him. It's not going to happen because the majority of American Jews are liberals, and many of them don't really prioritize Israel as an issue. Many of them think of domestic issues, their liberal social justice agenda, as they would call it. That's what motivates their votes. And, I think President Trump either doesn't understand that or he just wishes it would change. But I think to call this an act of anti-Semitism by using that phrase just gets it backwards. Again, you have to understand him in context and understand what he means. He wants Americans to support Israel. He also wants, and this is self-interested on his part, for the Democratic Party to have as its face those socialist Spice Girls. He doesn't want to have to deal with sort of moderate or, a more mainstream Democrats, even someone like Steny Hoyer, the House Majority Leader, who just recently led a delegation of 41 Democrats, along with 31 Republicans, the largest congressional visit to Israel, where they actually saw Israel as opposed to what Omar and Tlaib wanted to do, which was to conduct a propaganda tour aimed at destroying Israel. So that's the key distinction here. Personally, I think Israel's ban of Omar and Tlaib was, it was counterproductive. But it works for Trump because he wants, the Democrats have been declining in support of Israel. They've been growing. Democrats are split on Israel. Republicans are almost lockstep supporters of Israel. And I think he wants to push the Democrats further to the left. That makes it easier for him to get reelected. But the point is, he's drawing attention to a real problem within the Democratic Party. Its left wing is increasingly anti-Israel for all sorts of really false reasons. The libels that Omar and Tlaib and people of their like who support the anti-Semitic BDS boycott movement of Israel.
Right.
And Democrats are split on them. And the real scandal here isn't whether or not they were admitted to Israel. The real scandal is that Omar and Tlaib have been trafficking in anti-Semitism. Their trip to Israel would have been organized by an anti-Semitic group which promotes blood libels against the Jewish people.
Well, why didn't they go on their trip with
this?
this?
Scandal. And if Democrats don't condemn them, that's on them. That's not on Trump.
Well, do you think the Jewish state should have denied entry to both of those two Spice Girls?
I think let's start by saying Israel has every right to control its borders, just as the United States does. If you openly advocate the destruction of the United States and the overturn of our republic and our democracy, you can be excluded from the United States. That's more or less what Omar and Tlaib are doing as far as Israel is concerned. So Israel's within its rights. Do I think it was smart? Do I think it does? No, because it just made them into martyrs, allows them to preen, in the liberal media and on the late night comedy shows as martyrs, as people being discriminated against. No, I think it was counterproductive. But I think we have to move beyond that and to understand who they are. And when Democrats apologize for them, rationalize them, defend them, they are owning this. This is not on Trump. This is on a Democratic Party. Tim Kaine, the Hillary Clinton's vice presidential candidate, was echoing Tlaib's lie that this was a Muslim, that Israel was implementing Trump's Muslim ban. It's absurd, and it's just frankly false. And Democrats are falling into a trap here. Not all Democrats are anti-Israel. Many are strong supporters of Israel. But the party is split. And to the extent that moderate, more sensible Democrats start defending these two radicals and others like them, they are buying into libels of the Jewish state and they are undermining the alliance. They're not defending it. It doesn't really matter what Netanyahu's decision or what prompted him to make that decision. The real issue now is who Omar and Tlaib are, what they're advocating, and that is anti-Semitism, that is the destruction of Israel, and they should be condemned by decent Democrats. Republicans threw one of their extremists basically out of the House caucus this year in Steve King because he was associated with white nationalism. Frankly, the proof of Omar and Tlaib's anti-Semitism is much stronger than the proof against Steve King. But instead of ostracizing them, as they should have the first time they opened their mouths early this year after they were first elected, Democrats have embraced them. Nancy Pelosi was on the cover of Rolling Stone magazine with these two.
Well,
that's a good point.
Well, and now
stripped of their committeeships.
And now, that's self-policing. There's no chance that self-policing will occur because they've become cultural icons. They were just memorialized in a Simpsons video.
Really?
The four Socialist Spice Girls will play momentarily. But yeah, I mean, that's the real problem the Democrats have, right? Is those four, even without Trump, but certainly with his assistance even more so, have become the faces of the Democrat Party.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I'll admit that back in November of last year, after they and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the leader of the squad, were elected, I said, you know what? As obnoxious as they are, they're just going to be backbenchers. They're not going to have any influence. Well, guess what? I was wrong. Both through their own, great use of social media and their unerring instinct for publicity, they have become really influential. They have faced down. Omar was going to be censured by moderate House Democrats, and the squad intimidated the Democratic Party and caused them caused them to back down. And even in this latest kerfuffle about Omar and Tlaib not getting into Israel, you have really moderate mainstream Democrats with long-time records of being pro-Israel who are now considering allowing their names to be associated with with what they're justifying these people. And why? Because they're afraid for their seats. Because what happened to Joe Crowley, the member of the Democratic leadership that AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, knocked off last year, they're planning to do the same thing to Eliot Engel, the chairman of the House Foreign Relations Committee. They're planning to do the same thing to the chairman of the House Appropriations Committee, Nita Lowey. They're both afraid of the squad. These people are not yet controlling the Democratic Party, but they've got the moderates on the run. And we'll see next year whether their ranks are the Spice Girls might not be enough to make an analogy here, because the ranks are going to be growing, because unfortunately, the left-wing base of the Democratic Party likes them. They are the rocks.
The Spice Girls
they
choir.
Are the future of the Democratic Party.
Yeah. Jonathan Tobin, editor-in-chief of Jewish News, the Jewish News Syndicate. Check out his column after Tlaib and Omar banned Democrats let radicals take the steering wheel, which I'll tweet out at Dan Proft. Jonathan Tobin, thanks as always for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Take care.
And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
The stories you need to know to start your day. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.